together a wedding celebration, or any other party for that matter, you know that one of the first things you do is generate a guest list. Now, my husband comes from a very large family, so a small wedding was out of the question. Unless, of course, we chose not to invite any of our siblings, their spouses, or their children. So our guest list consisted of 3 columns. Family, who had to be invited, close friends we wanted to invite, and those we would love to invite if there was space within our budget. At no time, and I say this in all honesty, at no time did we consider inviting the poor, the crippled, the lame, or the blind. But I don't think this gospel is necessarily about a guest list. I think it is about reciprocal relationships. Those relationships that fall under the option of keeping things even. Those relationships that fall under the I pat your back, you scratch mine category. The types of relationships that happen in, say, Washington, D.C. with super PACs. It is why we as pastors are warned against taking large gifts from members of the community we serve. Those gifts usually come with large strings attached. I think what Jesus is talking about is more like the way my parents treated my sister and me. They were hardworking, blue-collar people, and they were as generous as possible when it came to holidays, birthdays, Christmas, weddings, and of course their grandkids. Anytime we would complain about the imbalance between the gifts they gave us and the gifts we could give them as young couples starting out with little to no money, they would always say this: "We do this for you so you can do this for your own kids and for others." They lived the concept of paying it forward before that phrase ever became a thing. I think Jesus is calling the church away from reciprocal relationships to transformational relationships in this parable. The kind of relationship you have just as a person walking this earth. The one where we are connected one to another just by breathing the same air. The one where what I do or how I live will directly or indirectly affect another person who just may find themselves lower on the status ladder than I am. Transformational relationships are those that provide hope, renewal, a lifeline, a new start. The money you send to an organization that feeds starving children in a country you will never visit. The meal or shelter you purchase for the person on the street corner holding a sign asking for help. The person you treat with the utmost respect because you see their human dignity instead of what they are wearing, the color of their skin, the job they hold, or their political affiliation. The time you take out of your busy life to weep with those who are grieving, or to stand with those on the margins whose very lives are in danger. You invite them into the banquet of your life, however briefly, by reaching out to their needs. Hebrews 13, verses 1 and 2. Let mutual affection continue. Do not neglect to show hospitality to strangers, for by doing that some have entertained angels without knowing it. That classic verse from our reading today is not just poetic writing. It is a reminder that the person in need before us is no different from us. Our privilege, in whatever form that privilege may take, doesn't give us permission to treat anyone as though they are beneath us. We treat someone well solely because they need us, and we have been called to love one another as our very selves. The scriptures are filled with transformational relationships. We don't have to be rich or have mystic powers to change someone's day or life. We just have to be willing to act. Anyone who knows me well, I should say, knows that I've been a fan of Kansas City Chiefs tight end Travis Kelce for a long time. I can already see this going on back there. Partly because of how well he plays football, but mostly because in 2021, he was interviewed by Fox Sports because he started a program called the Ignition Lab. When he was a young football player, he started attending an organization called Operation Breakthrough. Would read stories to the kids. But he saw they only went to a certain age, and he asked the person who oversaw, he says, well, so what happens afterwards? And they went, it's all the funding we have. And so when he got his first big contract, he made a commitment to the city of Kansas City, and he opened up the Ignition Labs. He bought an old Midas muffler building, and they redid it. And what it is it serves community, the families in the community whose average income is $12,000 to $14,000 a year. These kids come in, they learn things like budgeting, cooking healthy. They learn culinary arts, they learn AI and podcasting, they learn everything in between. Mechanics, body shape, doing body work on cars. And when they interviewed him, and this is what struck me, they asked him, have the kids ever told you what this means to them? And he took a moment, and he just said, yes. And the interviewer let it hang there, and he started to explain, and he got emotional. And he said, all that matters is they give all that matters to me is a smile and a thank you. And the interviewer said this, you give them more than a smile and a thank and you're welcome. You give them hope. You give them the ability to change their lives. We use the phrase life-changing actions frivolously, but you truly are changing their lives. Since then, he has added other initiatives at the University of Cincinnati and his hometown of Cleveland Heights. Now, that's an extreme example of inviting someone into the banquet of your life. But for any of us, it really comes down to being aware of the opportunities standing right in front of us, having eyes to see and ears to hear. And of course, then being brave enough to risk our reputation, or our safety, or our money as we stand with those whose very lives are at the risk of being erased. I stumbled across this quote from the late Archbishop William Temple as I was preparing for today, and I think it fits perfectly. And I quote, "The church is the only institution that exists primarily for the benefit of those who are not its members." Let me repeat that. The church is the only institution that exists primarily for the benefit of those who are not its members. Or at least it should be. These days, many church communities are more concerned about their buildings than our common mission. For this community, it is certainly a good reminder to open every Sunday service here with whoever you are and wherever you are on life's journey, you are welcome here. But that welcome must also extend to those who will never walk through those doors. The people on the margins that many ignore or try to erase are in even more need of a kind word and to be fully accepted as they are. God's banquet table is expansive and all-inclusive. Every person we meet is a child of God, stamped with the image of God in their soul. And sometimes our way of life can blind us to the angels who stand before us. And it is our duty as Christians to not become blind or deaf to those people or voices crying out for mercy in this life, not just the next. There is much to do, church, and it can become overwhelming to know where God is calling us to act. But now is not the time to grow weary. Now is the time to rest in God and God's mission. It is time to stand tall in our call to love the stranger as ourselves and to transform this world one relationship at a time by expanding the guest list of those we invite into the banquet of our own lives.